USA Ultimate, proud to present the 2015 College National Championship. This is the women's second semifinal between Carleton and Stanford, live from Eli Soccer Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Earlier today, tightly contested match blown open in the second half by #1 Oregon with a 15-9 victory over British Columbia. Oregon faces the winner of this game for the national title tomorrow. Jim Barber and Evan Lepler, who started at Wake Forest. First game tight for a while, then Oregon took over. Second game, conditions starting to pick up a little bit more rain. What might we anticipate?
Well, Carleton's excited because they think these are the Midwest conditions that they've played and practiced in throughout the season. And Carleton historically is a team that peaks at nationals, but Stanford's been the best team at these fields this week, and even better than Oregon. The consensus has been Superfly has been superior. The question is, can they do it in the biggest stage in the semifinals?
It's a fair question. We profiled the team from Minnesota. Asked the coach today, hey, about that wind out there? They said, what wind? We face something much more difficult in Wisconsin and in Iowa, and there is their first place finish in the North Central Regionals and their Spirit Award nominee. But we're going to talk most valuable player in this team, and I think Emily Buckner's name sticks out.
Yeah, Lusa Childs-Walker is key, handling the disc, but the initiator who can also throw deep, Emily Buckner, if Carleton's going to win this game, she's going to be invaluable because of her size and her ability to match up with Stanford's best in the air. They're going to really need her to do her thing.
Let's talk Stanford now and profile the university. As you know, it's from Palo Alto, California. First place finishes many this year, and Stephanie Lim has been very special.
And the Stanford history is vast. Many, many championships. Great players like Dominique Fontenette, Gwen Ambler. You could go on. And Stephanie Lim, add her into the conversation. She's their Callahan nominee, and their coach Jamie Newer says she's the nominee for all the right reasons. Great spirit, great energy. She's a team leader. She's also incredible with the disc, a key player in their backfield that's led them to an undefeated tournament so far here at Nationals.
We already know that Oregon coach Lou Burris is rooting against Stanford and for his own alma mater, Carleton. We'll find out which team will face Oregon tomorrow in the championship game. National semifinal #2 is coming up. The 2015 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer for Discraft Ultrastar. The Women's Sports Foundation, ensuring equality and leadership opportunities for girls and women through sports. And the Girls Ultimate Movement, a strategic initiative designed to increase girls' participation in the sport of ultimate. For Carleton, Emily Buckner, we just highlighted her moments ago, one of the four cutters, along with Weeks, Chavez, and Thalen. The handlers are Childs-Walker, Borden, and Price Lazarus. The head coach, Julia Snyder, pleasant to visit with her moments ago, as it was with the entire staff of Jamie Newworth, Jenny Wang, and Robin Davis. And there's Lim right in the middle of the four handlers with Oster, Gegg, and Harris serving as the cutters. The Stanford Superfly, 7 national championships, 2 3-peats.
A lot of history in this program from 1995 to 2011. They went to nationals 15 times in 17 years, made semis 13 times, 11 finals, and 7 national titles. And this is a team that is capable of winning #8. But this is not an easy game against Carleton. One of the great powers of ultimate in their own right, in their backyard. Stanford's had a much longer journey here. Now, something to watch early. Carleton is missing one of their key handlers in terms of swinging the disc. Katie Ciaglo out with a possible ACL, definitely an MCL. Carleton shooting deep immediately. Where's the defense?
That's going to be an easy score. Wow, talk about a breakdown. That happens within seconds, and the Stanford women jump out 1-0.
I don't think they'll be offended by referred to as the Cardinal, but they'll be offended by this start. It wasn't the turnover that was bad. It was a great defensive play by Nami Sumida. She's one of the key Syzygy defenders. But the lack of transition defense here. I mean, Emily Buckner was wide open, and she wasn't the only one.
So within seconds, Superfly jumps out 1-0.
Anna Weeks was wide open too. The senior picks up the assist. And Buckner the goal. Buckner's been playing ultimate since high school, like so many in Seattle, going to Carleton. She's aggressive, but she's smart. One of the top women's coaches was telling me about how she's able to bid aggressively but intelligently. Carleton lost its first game in pool play, falling to the number 3 seed UCLA. But from there, it has been maybe not exactly smooth sailing. They were playing British Columbia in pool play when Mira Donaldson went down. And this morning in the quarterfinals, Jim, Carleton was precariously down 5-2 to Whitman.
Syzygy trying to go with the deep threat as well, but that one hung up in the air for a while and it was nowhere near the intended cutter. So it remains 1-0. Disc in the hands of Stanford once again.
Carleton on offense now. Of course, 2 years ago, Carleton went all the way to the finals before falling to Oregon. Julia Snyder, the coach of Syzygy, was a key part of that team. The semifinal round 2 years ago, Flannery McCardle played an amazing game, and that's Stephanie Lim doing work from the cutting line, the vert stack in the end zone for Superfly.
Tie score at 1-1. My apologies for having the wrong team out there initially with the first goal of the game. So off the turnover, we have an even score.
Been really impressed with Stanford's poise and composure throughout the weekend. In pool play, Stanford fell behind University of Washington 3-0 in a very well-coached, veteran element team that's won the national title before for UW. But you know, Stanford's been the better team all season long. Doesn't mean they haven't lost to some of those other Northwest powers. They fell behind 3-0 and they really didn't waver. They kept doing what they're doing. They found their rhythm. Stanford and Oregon are the only 2 remaining teams in the tournament that did not lose a game. Virginia went through pool play undefeated as well, but lost in quarters to UBC. Stanford coming out of Pool B and taking down Colorado, the ladies of Cali, in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, in that game, Stanford had an 8-2 lead and just kind of busted it open in the second half. So a 1-1 tie with the disc. Here comes Carleton.
Lucia Childs Walker, the younger sister of Julian Childs Walker, who was a key cog on the Carleton team that made it to semis a couple years ago.
And Zoe Borden handling moments ago, number 12.
Now, Carleton prides itself on taking care of the disc, taking the shots when they come, but the playing style for Carleton Syzygy has really evolved. Running a lot of vert stack these days, and this is Buckner, a little too far.
Intended for Megan Chavez. So the Superfly of Stanford get the disc back.
I was chatting yesterday with one of Syzygy's big rivals, the head coach of Wisconsin's Belladonna, Robin Wiseman. She was saying that, in the past, Carleton just ran this sort of chaotic offense, bodies flying everywhere, not a lot of form. They've calmed down a little bit these last couple of years.
Facing a team with great history and a 2-1 lead. Emily Buckner. You watch her performance so far today, and we highlighted her at the beginning, and she has not surprised anybody.
She's a rare deep cutter that also has all the throws. And she's been able to punish teams throughout the tournament that don't want to get burnt deep when she goes underneath. Here's an example of just calm, patient red zone offense and finding a pocket in the middle of the defense. Vision from the handling core, and a good start here for Carleton. They're up 2-1 and up a break.
And off the throw from Childs Walker, and it always makes you feel good as an analyst when you highlight somebody at the beginning of a broadcast and they don't let you down.
It does. It's very affirming.
So far, Buckner with a 2-1 lead. Let's talk facts on this tournament. First held in Somerville, Massachusetts, nearly 30 years ago. In fact, more than 30. Men and women's champions have been crowned since '87. 40 teams in the tournament. That's who arrived here in Milwaukee, and over 900 athletes participating. The defending champs. We talked with Cassie Swafford a little earlier today. She led Ohio State to the title last year. And Mama Bird, Colorado, won the men's championship.
Twenty teams qualify for nationals, going through sectionals and regionals this year. In the women's division, 13 schools returned from last year, 7 new teams that didn't make it last year.
Quickly into the red zone, here comes Stanford.
Pick was called downfield. Unlike basketball, you can't set screens if the defensive player is forced to run through another body. Regardless of what team chasing the offensive player, a pick will be called.
2-1 our score. It's Caitlin Go, 60. Tie score.
That was a really impressive low release inside flick. She didn't have very much space to work with, so she had to speed it in there.
Deep throw helped set this score up.
Yeah, blocked off the underneath. Stanford needed to prove that they can shoot it long. Michaela Meister sets it up for Caitlin Go. And the second-year Superfly member from Boston picks up the assist. Not an easy throw.
No. Reminds you of a quarterback throwing that low ball that no defender can come up with. It's a tough catch, but when a catch is made, how will you defend it?
Probably my favorite part about Ultimate is that everybody gets to be the quarterback and everybody gets to be the receiver. You have to be versatile. There's some players who have great throws, don't have the athleticism, some vice versa. Great in the air, great deep, but always have to sort of look for the dump whenever they get the disc. Those special players that combine all those skills are the true elite greats.
So a 2-2 tie.
Folks have said that Stanford might have the best athletes in the women's division this year. They're not incredibly deep. They've got some depth, but not the most in the field. Someone's got to stop that pull.
Yeah.
Right around midfield, Lim kicks it down, and Childs Walker just throws it away.
Well, was there anything about the pull that made it hard to handle?
That was just miscommunication there, I think. The delay in initiating cutting movement certainly was not normal, but no excuse. This is their Callahan nominee, Lim, to the wide open under Michaela Meister.
She wears number 6. Here the Superfly on the attack and the score. Nicely done, kind of threading the needle right there. And a great catch by Caitlin Go, and a Stanford advantage of 3-2.
Yeah, their first lead. I mentioned how they have the best athletes. They believe against man-to-man defense that they can win. They think they're better, and what a great ultimate name, Caitlin Go. Appropriately, she's a deep cutter.
Yeah. It was a nice fake, too, by Halsey Hoster.
Very smooth flow. Up the line, quick fake, got the mark off balance. Not a lot of space to work with up line, but with precise throws, you don't need a lot of space. And now at one end of the field, we saw the inside break flick in tight quarters. There, just working it up the line. Precision to perfection.
And Caitlin Go should be a favorite of yours. She's from Boston, Mass. So.
Sure. These are Boston conditions a little bit.
Temperature at game time 60 degrees. Yesterday close to 80.
I learned once that Boston statistically has more wind than Chicago, which is known as the Windy City.
Really?
You ever hear that?
No. First time today. Eline weather, 61 degrees officially. Mild wind conditions. Lots of rain earlier today, but nothing significant.
It'll make you think twice the next time you're calling a Northwestern game, I bet.
Yeah. In fact, I was in Milwaukee last week. There's plenty of fog downtown, so I was impressed to see the fog gone yesterday, and it was just a day where you showed up and you saw lots of people suntanning and playing this ultimate game with a lot of closely contested games in the pre-quarters, and things started to even out a little bit, and the favorites started to appear.
First 2 days of the tournament, there was just sensational sunshine as we see a sensational bit from Buckner, and she lets it rip. She may have rushed the throw just a little bit.
Yeah, what a great layout at midfield, and yet they're going to give it up.
I've been there. You make a great dive and catch, and you want to go for it all. Take the big shot. Sometimes it's better to take a breath.
Now, tracing your history, more of a handler at Wake as opposed to a cutter, right?
Yeah, I was probably our primary center handler for a few years. A lot of great games, battling some of the other top Atlantic Coast teams, Division I regionals. Now, we were a small school just trying to compete with the bigger schools. We play them tough and feel proud about ourselves. I think Carleton is certainly a school that we looked up to. At Wake Forest, we think we're a small school, but Carleton is even smaller. And the history that they have, they're eligible to compete at D3 Nationals, and the B team, Eclipse, competes at D3 Nationals in the women's, Carleton GOP in the men's. But the way they battle at the D1 level, the highest level of college ultimate, year after year after year.
How about that? They score, and with that score, go up by 2. Check that, tied at 3 now.
Check out this throw from Nami Sumida. And then up line, Buckner. Obviously a bunch of outside in float. 2 Stanford defenders go tumbling down like bowling pins.
How difficult is to defend a throw like that?
Well, it's all about learning to read the disc, and that just comes from experience and practice. You know, it's all part of the package of being a great ultimate player. You can be the most athletic guy, you could have the greatest throws. If you can't read the disc in those situations and know where that 175-gram piece of plastic is going to float to, and knowing your own athleticism, where can you go to jump up and reach it at the highest point? So timeout called on the field. Kind of a herky-jerky start to this game. We've seen both teams make plays. Both teams have made a couple rather inexplicable mistakes in the early going, and appropriately we're dead even. It was interesting. I think Stanford sort of expects to make the title game. They're the
Sure.
number 2 seed overall. They've played great. They're undefeated all week. They came into this with a game plan of, we just got to execute our business. Carleton, not to say they're happy to be here, or that they are happy to be here. They're not satisfied with being here, but it was much more, we just need to play for each other. That's why we're here at Nationals, point by point, game by game.
Well, and when you talk to the coaches, they thought their year was a few years back.
Well,
and so now you get here and there seems to be pressure off, and you're playing for, well, certainly not only to win, but also just the enjoyment of it. I think it seemed to be a thrill just to be back.
Megan Molteni said that 2 years ago, there was a completely different vibe than what they have this year. Now, 2 years ago, they had just come off a year where they had missed nationals. They had sort of this unfinished business. They had a lot of seniors, and that was really a sort of a single-minded focus. This year, they got a lot of sophomores on the squad. Some key veterans like Childs Walker and Buckner. Julia Snyder has transitioned from player to coach. And when they were down 5-2 in the quarters against Whitman, her message was, guys, we're beating ourselves. Let's just get back to the things that we're good at. And that's what they did.
Stanford with a disc and a 3-3 tie. Into traffic. And back the other way in the hands of Carleton.
Such a fine line. You don't want to throw the disc with too much float because that gives the defense a chance, but right there, you didn't give your own team a chance.
And Zoe Borden right now with the disc. Mark with the tap, and back to action we go.
Oh, the hand block for the deflection fortuitously for Carleton.
In the hands of Borden to keep the possession going. Claire Thalen operating on the far side.
You know, it was an excellent strike cut up line from Zoe Borden. And her defender called a pick, and Borden doesn't look like she agrees.
So we'll bring in an observer to mitigate this thing, but apparently we're back to action.
Monisha White called the pick.
Once again, it's considered a non-contact sport, but
so is basketball.
yeah. There's Claire Rostow, 14. Hounded by Caitlin Go. 3-3 tie. First half, other semifinal. Oregon won the first one 15-9. And the fourth goal of the game by Carleton. Threading the needle and finding it in the hands of Sumida.
Nami Sumida has been really impressive. And just the awareness to make this cut with the stall count rising. Tried to go underneath the defender. She was cut off by the good body positioning from Shayla Harris. So she went beyond and got the around flick.
So Sumida puts up the lower seeded Carleton to a 4-3 advantage.
Yeah, good cut, good throw. An example of why the offense has the advantage. Really tough to defend that around the end zone.
Would you please take time to explain to our national television audience what Syzygy stands for?
Well, Syzygy is a scientific term for 3 or more heavenly bodies lined up in a row. So if the planets are all lined up in a row, it's said to be the planets are in Syzygy. You need to take an earth science class, Jim.
Nicely done.
You're looking at me like I have like 19 ears or something.
I don't believe
right
my
now.
communications major required that, fortunately. But very good. And we'll be quizzing people on that later in the broadcast anyway.
I had an earth science teacher my freshman year of high school that joked that he's named his daughter Syzygy because it's a nice sounding name. And it, you know,
Heavenly body.
You play it in Scrabble, you're in big points.
Absolutely. Got to use a blank in there, though. I think there are 2 Z's that are available. This one a little bit too far. And it remains 4-3, and Carleton back with the disc. Okay, I know we don't have the type of wind that you know, would be gale force here, but did that affect the throw at all?
You know, I think Stanford is experienced in playing in all types of conditions, so I wouldn't use the excuse of the wind for that throw. It's basically a thrower's wind. Good throwers feel very comfortable in it. Some of the less experienced throwers, maybe not so much.
Weeks and Chavez play catch as they approach midfield.
This has still been, like the first women's semi, a fairly clean game and great vision on that put. What a shot.
From Childs Walker, finding Chavez, and another Carleton score.
I love what Syzygy is doing right now. They're basically just taking what the defense is giving them. And the awareness and intelligence that that requires is what's so impressive. Looking for the flick, it's not there. The check it out cut from Megan Chavez. Watch her downfield. She was running to the right, then turned, shifted to the left, and the handler just put it to space.
Childs Walker has 2 assists in the game. 4 different Carleton players have now scored.
What a beautiful throw. Saw Alika Johnston for Virginia do that a lot. That was the throw that she made over and over again. Sort of that not quite high release backhand, but higher release backhand over any traffic that might be in the way of that throw, but not so high it floats up forever and gives the defense a chance. Really precise, on the money.
Look at all the smiles, particularly from the coaching staff inside that huddle.
They like what they're seeing.
Don't they know this is a big game?
Well, they're up 5-3. They're on a 3-0 run.
Oh, okay.
And shouldn't you try to be relaxed
Well,
on
yeah,
the
you
verge
should try
of the
to
big
enjoy
game?
this. Absolutely.
3 Carleton alums on the coaching staff. Julia Snyder graduated last year. Megan Multeney, class of 2008. And Logan Weiss, class of 2012. Played for Carleton Cut. It's a little weird here at Nationals without the Carleton men's team. Carleton, just the second time since 1990 that the Carleton men have not been at Nationals, along with 2006.
Let's visit the top 8 seeds and the result. Oregon, as you know, already to the championship game. Stanford, you're watching right now, Superfly playing. UCLA, Colorado, Virginia, all eliminated earlier. Carleton College is on the scene right here, and Dartmouth lost earlier today in the quarters. Pool play eliminated Notre Dame Womb.
You think back to the semifinals last year. You had Central Florida, Washington, and Ohio State, none of whom made the quarterfinals this year. And 2 of those teams didn't even make the pre-quarters.
Yeah.
Washington and UCF. Now, all those teams are back at Nationals, but Oregon, the only team to return to the Final Four. For Ohio State, the defending champs, Deanna Ball's team only had 4 players that played meaningful points at Nationals last year back, so they're very much a young team. I think they looked at just making the bracket play as a real effort of consequence.
And in case you're not aware, the format is such that everybody has to play today in the quarters and then come back, if they win, to play in the semifinals.
Pick was called downfield. Or maybe a foul. See if we can hear the observers.
Courtney Gegg had the catch.
Yeah, I think it was, and then I just really felt like
All right.
arm.
So if
Zoe
foul's
Borden with her
called,
explanation.
Do you want to contest and send it back, or do you want to come to us?
I'll contest. I'm having to send it back. That's up to you.
Okay. So yeah, it's a foul contest. It's going back. Yep.
Self-officiated game where the spirit of the game is supposed to be more important than anything else. But in a game of such importance, can that be pushed aside?
Well, there's a fine line, and we've seen it work great. We've also seen examples when it hasn't worked great. But, you know, in any sport, there's evolution, and observers have taken much more active roles. And I do think spirit over the course of the last 5-10 years has improved greatly. You know, there have been peaks and valleys for sure.
Diving layout by Caitlin Go moments ago.
Nice play.
And Stanford comes right back and comes back quickly. Meister with a score.
Somebody should tell her to get excited. She just scored.
Pretty low key, isn't she?
Yeah, Michaela Meister, she's been on the top club team in the world at times, played for San Francisco Fury. Had a torn ACL injury about 1.5 years ago, but she's battled back to top form. And Stanford is a team that needs to play with that energy. And I think, you know, Meister, as a veteran leader, she's a graduate student in computer science, and she, you know, trying to provide this extroverted reaction to get her teammates into the game, to inspire some defensive effort on this next point.
She becomes the 4th different player to score for Superfly, narrowing the deficit to 5-4. So both teams are getting active goal scoring by a number of different players. Emily Buckner is the only one that has scored more than once.
Not quite the same pace to this game as what we saw in the first women's semi, but in terms of tightness, I think we're headed to a close finish here. The way these teams have sort of jabbed at each other through these first 9-10 points. You know, been impressed with Carleton's ability to take what Stanford gives them, and now Stanford comes down with his own defense, and it leads to a quick turn.
Yeah, pretty good defensive strategy there, wouldn't you say? Although
Buckner called a foul on Meister, and they'll talk it over.
Yep. People watching USA Ultimate for the first time probably are intrigued by the fact that this game is self-officiated. I know you played it.
There's no foul. All right, we're going to start with a check.
No foul. I think they decided it with each other. Yeah.
If foul called, it was no foul.
You know, the type of person that sort of heads into Ultimate is someone that wants to, you know, be friends with the players you're beating. If you beat someone and they're your friends, you know, it feels even better, I think. Like, you have respect for your opponent, and you're proud of what you've been able to do. And Stanford has quickly countered to tie this thing up.
Courtney Gegg, back-to-back goals by Superfly. We're tied at 5. In the left corner, all by herself.
And it's one of those things, Jim, what goes around comes around. You know, you want to play with spirit, so people play with spirit toward you. It's a nice outside and backhand from Meister.
And Michaela was equally as excited as Gegg was as they combine here for the game-tying goal.
The stakes are high. There's reason to be excited. A birth and Memorial Day Monday in Milwaukee on the line.
To face Lou Burris's coach team of Oregon. Lou Burris is long time associated with Carleton College.
Yeah, he was coach of Syzygy after he played for Carleton Cut. So many Carleton players come from the Seattle youth scene. And Lou obviously is a longtime club player in Seattle, so.
And we asked him on our broadcast after the conclusion of the first game who we thought might win, what might happen in the second game between Carleton and Stanford. He said, I always root against Stanford.
And we talked to Jamie Newer and told her that, and she said, that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
I always root against Oregon, basically paraphrasing her response. So, you know, either way, tomorrow we've got a heck of a matchup. If it's Carleton-Oregon, it's a rematch of the finals from 2 years ago. And if it's Oregon-Stanford, you have probably the greatest dynasty of the last decade versus the greatest women's ultimate program that's existed.
That's well put. Carleton, red tops, black shorts.
Yeah, it is a little confusing because Carleton is wearing the Stanford red.
The only one that was confused at the beginning was me. You were fine.
Through the hands, so close, but Chavez couldn't haul it in there.
So we stay tied at 5. First one to 8 forces a halftime break of 10 minutes. Game is played up to 15 goals. First team to reach it wins it.
Opportunity there goes awry, and now Stanford looking for its 3rd in a row. Beginning an invert stack, and the first cut from Meister came from the front of the vertical stack.
Carleton had a 3-0 run that bumped its lead to 5-3.
Gorgeous
now tied at 5.
throw.
Look at the run underneath the toss. And an easy score. Well done. Stanford regains the advantage at 6-5. Goal by Sandino.
3 in a row for Stanford. Began with a cut to Meister. Look downfield, couple counts, nothing there. Swings the disc, and this is a beautiful shot for Jennifer Thompson.
And check that, Halsey Hoster with the goal, or actually the toss then over to Sandino.
Great offense is usually a byproduct of efficient and effective handler movement. They got the disc centered, got the reset into power position. And I just can't say enough about this throw. She had so much space to work with. There was tons of green turf ahead of her, and yet she didn't overthrow it. She didn't try to get it all on that one throw. She could have, and she might have been able to, but it would have been a riskier throw. She just put it up with plenty of float, ensured that Hoster would get there, and then one more easy finish to the end zone with the transition offense. Stanford spreading the disc around and forcing Carleton to call timeout.
Rosemarie Sandino becomes the 6th different player to score in this game for Stanford. So what are they talking about in the huddle right now?
I think they're trying to calm themselves. Carleton's trying to calm themselves down and get back to doing what they do well. And there's the history. Pretty much all West Coast teams, Pacific Northwest with the exception of UNCW.
Ohio State interrupted the dominance last year with a national championship in 2014.
Oregon kept going, pretty elite company. You know, you have Stanford, Santa Barbara, and then that slew of schools with 2. And Oregon for the 2nd straight year trying to go for the title after winning it 2 years ago. Ohio State, the first team since Georgia, the Ladies of Dogma in 2001.
That is a great nickname, by the way. Georgia Bulldogs, Ladies of Dogma.
D-A-W-G-M-A. I feel like the Ultimate community is gradually winning you over, Jim. The creativity in the name.
You know, like
layouts.
within the first 30 seconds when I arrived here and saw thousands of people, I was just, it's such a festive atmosphere and competitive. And I got to walk the course with you.
Mostly you enjoyed sort of the halftime dance breakouts, I felt like. I saw you giving a little shake.
Didn't think anybody noticed. Carleton with a disc, 6-5 score, collision. We've got an athlete down. Field Marsham is on the field right now and in pain.
Natasha Field Marsham did everything she could, not the first one to come up a little short against Buckner. And it's amazing that Buckner was impervious to that contact. When you look at the replay, NFM really took the brunt of that. Buckner didn't do anything wrong. I'll tell you, Natasha Field Marsham, in her first year from Toronto, 5'6", she looks like a rookie on the field. And what I mean by that is sometimes she'd make a great catch deep, she gets the disc, and then she's just immediately sort of looking for someone to throw to. She doesn't yet look comfortable with the disc, but she is a special athlete. She looks like, watching her, that I'm guessing she was like a center midfielder in soccer, because that's just how she runs and how she pursues the disc relentlessly.
Well, and rather than have her name on the back of the jersey, which would take some doing, she has the initials NFM.
They saved a little money on the printing there.
They did indeed. Stanford back with the disc in a 6-5 game. We reach 8, we reach halftime.
Unable to haul that in. Inbounds, Courtney Gegg.
You said earlier you thought the first half's kind of herky-jerky, so it's a contrast to what we saw in the first one between Oregon and UBC.
You know, I mean, in the first half of the Oregon-UBC game, we didn't really see a run more than 2-0. You know, there was 2-0 to end the first half. After it was tied at 6s, UBC scored 2 in a row at one point to take its first lead. This game has been much more a match of runs Both defenses have been able to force some turnovers.
Like that one there where Halsey Hoster steps in front and gets the disc for Stanford. Trying to punch out a 2-goal lead. Well done. 7-5 Stanford, and all alone on the receiving end, Ann Rempel.
When you have some long multiple turnover points, you can forget how quickly a team as good as Stanford can strike. And just not a great job of transition defense. Nobody picked up Hoster until late. Not a very strong active mark. And then an easy shot for Shayla Harris. You know, key in any game, especially one with multiple turnovers, is playing good transition defense. If you let your guard down, your focus lapses for just a moment, it's really hard to play catch up in this game.
How about the fact we've had 7 different players score for Superfly?
I mean, it is a representation of Stanford's depth and great team chemistry. They've got confidence in each other. They don't have a specific goal scorer.
The winner of our game, Stanford and Carleton College, faces Oregon, who got pretty good goal efforts today. In fact, a couple of 3-goal efforts in their 15-9 win over British Columbia. So Oregon in the title game tomorrow, 1 o'clock ESPN 3 against either Carleton or Stanford. Emily Buckner's been quiet since she scored the first 2 goals of the first half.
And they've done a pretty good job defensively, especially downfield when she's caught the disc. They've got Michaela Meister guarding her downfield, and Meister did a great job there bodying her as she tried to make her cut. Not in the end zone yet, but on the brink.
Sheffield with the layout. Now Sheffield looking to score. And a foul will hold up play.
Foul, no contest? Or contest? Okay. Foul, no contest. You're number 1.
Sheffield looks and throws, score.
Who'd you say hadn't been impactful lately?
Emily Buckner. And there she is. She has 3 scores in the first half, and back comes Syzygy with a very important score toward the end of the first half.
You know, sometimes, in fact, most of the time, stoppages of the disc are not advantageous for the offense. But I feel like in this situation, the foul sort of allowed Syzygy to reset mentally and say, okay, who do we usually go to? We usually go to number 5, Emily Buckner. She faked to the dump, up line, right past Meister. Usually when the disc stops, it's advantageous to the defense because it ruins the flow, and it's a game of flow and space.
Buckner with half the scoring for her team. Buckner with 3 now. And everybody else in this game on both sides have scored at most 1.
Stanford on offense trying to take half. And the game began with Stanford receiving, throwing it over immediately, and Carleton capitalizing for an early break. We've seen Syzygy convert defensively quickly. Maybe this will be another opportunity here. Childs Walker to pick it up.
Chance to tie the game.
Swing the disc here if you're Carleton. Swing the disc. Make Stanford run.
Childs Walker, who has 2 assists in this game, handling moments ago along with Borden. And now to Rostov. It's pretty key possession, isn't it?
It's huge. And all Carleton has done so far is lose yards. This good four-person cup from Stanford. That's a nice high release backhand to find some space. There's an open lane for a hammer across the field, but with the breeze, it's not an easy throw, so the high backhand, dangerous and incomplete.
A lot of trouble handling the disc and moving forward on that turn. We come back the other way. Going up to grab it is Gegg. Gegg to Rempel. Score, and we're at halftime. Michaela Meister. And I thought that was set up by the defense earlier, where Carleton just couldn't advance the disc. You mentioned they were going backwards.
Well, that's exactly what was happening, a result of this cup. And I felt like they could have done a better job swinging the disc laterally. Stanford just shooting it deep. It was a punting situation, but they had the numbers. And Gegg able to come down with it. Quick reset, open side to Meister. She's made that cut a million times. An impressive defensive sequence to the half, and I can guarantee you at the break, Carleton will spend some time talking about how they're going to adjust to handle that four-person cup from Stanford.
We'll hold some conversations with the coaches in a matter of minutes in an 8-6 first half score. Megan Molteni stepping in position right now for Carleton. All right, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. Tell us what happened toward the end of the first half in which Stanford was able to convert that 8th goal.
Well, Stanford adjusted to coming out with a zone, and we weren't quick enough to kind of make adjustments in the wind. We're still looking to hit over-the-top shots and trying to hit our taller targets, but unable to cope with Stanford's kind of multiple tall defenders. And so we're going to need to adjust that and use the width of the field rather than our own kind of height in the backfield.
Coach, you guys have played a lot of big games, and I know the Carleton.
I can't hear anything.
I know the Carleton philosophy is to speak. Can you hear me, Megan?
Yeah, now I can.
Yeah, I know the Carleton philosophy is to peak at nationals. What has gone into that process?
I mean, we truly are a program. We have we have a class of 8 rookies this year, and we have 7 sophomores ahead of them. This is only their 2nd season, and we invest in those players all season long. They're playing the big points at all the big tournaments, so that when we get here to nationals, we can roll 17, 18, 19 deep, depending how many concussions we're dealing with at any given time. So our philosophy is really and truly that our results earlier in the season are all about individual player development and chemistry, and that we can get it done kind of conferences and regionals, so that we are coming into nationals feeling prepared for a 3-day tournament where we can go deep into the tournament.
It's a season to improve. It's a battle of attrition. Real quick, what are the keys to the second half? What will you tell your team?
Keys to the second half will be dealing with key matchups. I think the more we can limit Stanford to playing on the small side of the field and not allowing them to exploit the break space will really allow us to use our legs to create those turnovers. And then offensively, we just need to take care of the disc and grind and be happy to take as many throws as it needs to get the goal done.
Megan, we wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
8-6 our score at halftime. Stanford rallying to lead Carleton. That's the 2nd national semifinal. Oregon awaits the winner. We head to commercial break. We're back with the voice of Ultimate, Evan Lepler. I'm Jim Barber. Live today on ESPN 3, 2nd semifinal. Stanford 8, Carleton 6. We're at halftime. Evan, let's revisit the first half highlights in which Carleton put together a 3-0 run and actually had a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, that Carleton got off to a great start in this game, taking what Stanford's defense gave them, and Lucia Childs-Walker made some really impressive throws. Emily Buckner was big in the air. But late in the first half, Michaela Meister started to flex her influence. Stanford's zone certainly threw a curveball at Carleton. They'll need to adjust to that.
Buckner in the first half scored 3 times for Carleton, which off that 3-0 run actually had an advantage over Stanford. Then Stanford came back with a 3-0 edge of its own.
They're announcing the Callahan. Congratulations to Jonathan Nethercutt, the 2015 Callahan Award winner from the University of North Carolina. We'll see him in the second men's semifinal later tonight against the University of Central Florida. He's a spirited player. He's a great thrower. He's a worthy Callahan winner. And it was cool that Jimmy Mickle got to present it to him. Matt Bennett, Stanley Peterson, Max Thorne, and Tyler Chan, the other men's Callahan finalists.
Jimmy making the journey all the way from the West Coast to come here and be a part of the national semifinals today. All right, now it's time for the highlights. And time to take a look at Carleton.
This is the opening point, and it was an inauspicious start for the ladies of Superfly. It took one throw for Childs Walker to find number 21, Anna Weeks, who quickly deposited the goal with Buckner. And then later, some patient offense. This is what I mean by swinging the disc. When Carleton found the openings, it was because they were moving the disc laterally. That opened up the lanes downfield. Buckner's just been impressive.
Buckner had the first 2 goals of the game for Carleton. Then they defended her pretty well, but other people got involved.
And Carleton just plays a pretty good brand of fundamental ultimate. Stanford, on the other hand, capable of spectacular ultimate. Nice low release backhand gag has been very important for Superfly. Angled throw laying out to the front corner of the end zone. Meister fired up with good reason. Later, again Meister, up line, and you can start to see a pattern. Superfly attacking the perimeter of the field with success because of their precise throws. Have we mentioned Michaela Meister yet?
A couple of times.
We'll mention her again. That was a nice dish to Jennifer Thompson. Beautiful feed for Hoster. All she had to do was run underneath it, and she took her time. Didn't take the easy shot. There was a little traffic there, and then took care of business.
And you thought the defense of the first half of Stanford set itself up for the final goal.
They used the 4-man cup, which eventually led to the forced over-the-top throw. And Carleton's transition defense will be another key factor, and if they can come back in this game, because that shot by Rempel hauled in by the leaping Gegg. Stanford is 7-time national champion. 7 points away from returning to the title game tomorrow.
Yeah, really starting to play like a team that has found its home in the national championship game on a number of occasions. That would be an Oregon-Stanford showdown, but we still have a half left to play. Let us recap the scoring for number 6 Carleton. It's Buckner with 3. Sheffield, Samina, and Chavez have scored once apiece off a couple of assists of Childs Walker. And for Stanford, Meister, Lim, White, Gegg, Go, Sandino, and Rempel, with Hoster assisting twice. It's the Callahan winners on display here at halftime, as we made the announcement moments ago. When we come back, we'll get you set up for the start of the second half. Stanford coach Jamie Newer, nice enough to join us here at the break as we get set for the start of the second half. And Jamie, let's speak to your defense at the end of the first half. How you were able to make a turnover and then convert it into scoring, and what may have befuddled Carleton a bit.
Yeah, I think our defense, we've changed up a lot of different options. We've gone both man and zone defenses and trying to keep it fresh for the second half as well. I think, you know, what we're trying to do is keep them on their toes and be able to transition quickly on our offense for the score.
Coach, when you called the timeout down 5-3, was the conversation more about strategy or energy?
More about energy, really. I think, you know, in a game like this, energy is going to be the most important thing, and people have a tendency to get nervous. So just trying to refocus the team and get people back on track to play our game.
Real quick, how are the conditions down on the field right now?
You know, it's a bit windy and a little bit rainy, but not terrible. Definitely still able to play ultimate here.
Any particular concerns on defending Emily Buckner in the second half?
You know, she's a great player, and we're definitely trying to keep someone really tight on her at all times, but she's going to get the disc sometimes and make some great plays. We're going to continue keeping the pressure on her with a couple of different types of defenders and hoping to contain her more in the second half.
I suppose, Jamie, we ought to let you go, right?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck, Jamie.
Okay.
We come back. We'll start the second half with Stanford ahead 8-6. Live coverage of USA Ultimate on ESPN3 all day and all night long. Let us revisit our women's bracket. Oregon wins earlier today 15-9 over British Columbia. Carleton College and Stanford doing battle, and Carleton ready to receive the disc to start the second half. With Evan Lepler, Jim Barber, pleased to have you with us today. The national championship game tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock in the West. Oh, by the way, the rain has re-entered the picture here.
Yeah, since we asked Jamie Newer the question, it seems to have intensified, so wouldn't be surprised to see a little more zone defense. The pull goes out of bounds, so Carleton will begin in the center. You know, it's a team game, Jim, but in a moment like this, you need your stars to make big plays. And if Carleton's going to come back, they're going to need big throws from Childs Walker, big grabs from Buckner. And you see this four-man cup from Stanford.
And that was the defense that befuddled Carleton in the first half, as you eloquently pointed out.
That's exactly what Stanford wanted with that defense. They want that over-the-top throw, the wall of defenders around the zone, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. The quick strike ability for Stanford on display. And that,
look at this.
A very meaningful first point that transpired way too quickly for Carleton's taste.
Field Marsham puts her team up by 3, 9-6. And isn't it interesting that the last 2 possessions have resulted in turnovers for Carleton and goals by Stanford?
And, you know, Stanford didn't take any time. Once they did turn it over, Childs Walker just looking for an opening. Stephanie Lim did a really good job guarding the dump defender there. Any sort of dump throw would have had to be a cross-field swing, which might have been available, but it wasn't an easy throw. And then the quick pickup, Monisha White airs it out. Stanford's got the athletes to do work deep.
Working in the deep threat, and now to a 9-6 advantage, as a lot of the fans here with the wind and rain starting to pick up are bringing out the umbrellas or heading for cover. Field Marsham, the 8th different Stanford player to score, and now there is some separation in this game here in the second half. Well, Halsey Hauster, we talked about her in the first half. Running under cover for the moment. This is probably the most intense the rain has been the entire day.
Entire tournament.
But these are tough athletes out here. They were like you when you play. This doesn't bother
Sure,
you,
no.
know?
It energized me when I played.
Absolutely. And this game will continue, and does continue, unless lightning enters into the picture.
It makes the ground a little softer to lay out. Like a slip and slide out there.
And who wouldn't like to be part of that? All right, Carleton must answer. They're in danger right now, trailing 9-6, and Stanford's not going to change its defense much, is it?
I would be surprised. It's been working. Oh, that wet disc proving to be a menace. Anna Weeks just lost the handle. That's a turnover. Tough one to swallow.
Oh, and on the other end, with the disc starting to become slippery, there's a drop there by Field Marsham.
That's the type of drop we really have not seen in either of the women's semifinals today. And there's a turf throw. Zoe Borden launched it into the ground.
So we're going to have to credit it to the weather, I would think. Not the turf throw, but the couple of drops moments ago.
Sometimes Mother Nature is your best defender.
Yeah. We saw so many few unforced errors in the first game between Oregon and UBC. Stanford right now very much in command and positioning itself for a showdown with Oregon tomorrow. To the near side of the field, nice toss, easy catch by Gegg.
Doesn't it feel like Stanford's starting to taste it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You know, we've seen all through this tournament Stanford go on some runs. And they got off to a slow start against Washington, down 3-0. They won that game going away. The quarterfinals earlier today against Colorado, an 8-2 start, and the momentum never really ceased. Down 5-3 in the first half here, but since then, it's a 7-1 run for Stanford.
Great programs. This is certainly one of them with 7 national titles over the last couple of decades. Doesn't take them long to figure a game out. May struggle in the early going, may have some things that aren't working. Once that gets figured out, once they apply the defense they did toward the end of the first half, you're in trouble.
And I think Stanford has a reputation for being a pretty good school and cultivating intelligent students and athletes.
Academically, I've heard that.
They didn't let me partake in any of their classes, so I can't personally verify the intelligence needed.
But I'm sure you're honorable mention for consideration, right?
You know, if I had applied, I'm sure it's kind of far from home. Have you ever been to the Stanford campus?
You know I haven't, but it is gorgeous from the view I've seen.
It is unbelievable. I've thrown a Frisbee on the grass on the Stanford campus before on a beautiful spring day.
Nothing much like Palo Alto, California to compare, that's for sure. All right, Carleton now deep in its own zone and trailing by 4. This is trouble.
And this is a handler. You know, it takes a really special player to work out of this type of situation successfully, trapped in your own end zone. This is Callahan country.
Gonna have to worry about a delay here as now they're back in the end zone.
Throwing it to space, dangerous. Carleton comes down with it.
Well, if there had been a pick in the end zone by Stanford, that would have been a Callahan and that would have been a goal. Long lead for the star of the early part of the game. Buckner hauls it in.
Nice job being patient. She didn't force the deep shot. It would have been 1-on-2.
Ooh, and a collision there. Initiated by Field Marsham.
Field Marsham has not been immune to contact in this game.
Field Marsham on the D. We do have a call on the play, however.
Whew, what an athletic move by number 7.
Pretty obvious foul, I would think. Intended for
So you're calling a foul, you're contesting?
Megan Chavez.
All right, am I rolling? It is a foul.
You're all over it, Jim. You saw it. She went up, and the athleticism was impressive, but she did also hit the offensive player in the back in pursuit of the disc.
This possession started back in the end zone of Carleton. Somehow able to weave its way out of difficulty. But now must convert.
Nice job. Went to the knees, made that catch.
Zoe Borden looks to her right and flicks it to Childs Walker on the left. And now another Carleton turnover. But on the return throw to Gegg, long behind her, and so Carleton gets the possession again. A 2-goal lead at one point for Carleton has turned into a 4-goal disadvantage.
Carleton has just been thrown a little off kilter by the zone. You know, they did a nice job there swinging the disc, and they had a throwing lane there. Just need a little bit more angle on that outside and backhand. You know what Stanford's game plan is once they get a turnover?
Throw it
As
deep.
far as they can.
Yep. Why not? Knock them out. All right, Carleton back on offense. So how does it solve its defense, which has been real Achilles heel lately?
You know, it's about patience and good, tight, short throws. And you see the mark, And then sort of the three-person wall. Steph Lim doing a great job guarding the dump. This is one of the throws that's open, but it popped up.
Off the turnover, back come the Cardinal, and laying out and unable to come up with it was Rempel, so a break for Carleton.
Sometimes your best opportunities are off a turn like that in transition before the defense can really get its act together, get situated.
Yeah, we saw that in the first game between Oregon and UBC.
You want to keep the disc moving, get quick resets. That's a nice find through the small little crevice in the cup.
Zoe Borden stretching to make that, and back in the hands of Childs Walker. But in the second half, Carleton has not scored. A fake hammer there. And now they're going to fling it to the near side. So Mina scored in the first half. She has had a quiet second half as well. There just aren't many openings out there.
I think the Carleton downfield cutters could be a little more active as well.
Here's a scoring opportunity that's picked off.
Monisha White, spectacular athlete in the Stanford White. Contact on the throw, looks like no contest. How about this D by Monisha White? 5'7" elevation.
Almost looked like a back shoulder throw, and then White came in to intercept.
Field Marsham feels she should have had that one. It was in her hands. And again, if you're Carleton, you got to act quickly here. Whoa.
Dallin knocked down to the turf.
I think we're a few years away from it, but the next evolution in ultimate might be a certain number of fouls and you're out of the game, like basketball. It would certainly change the way coaches dealt with substitutions. If you had 4 fouls a game and say you picked up 2 early, do you take that player out for a little while, or do you play much more conservatively?
Do you like the idea?
I suggested it. I think it'd be interesting.
Syzygy has not scored in the second half. After trailing 8-6 at halftime, now down by 4. I think moving the disc a little bit better, though, here in this last couple of minutes.
Testing Monisha White again. This time, the Stanford deep just fell short.
And Claire Thalen gets a much-needed goal for Carleton.
Yeah, this was imperative that Syzygy got its objects in a line this possession. A little dangerous throw, not exactly a sure thing, but it's nice to have 5'9", 19-year-old Claire Thalen.
Blair, or rather Buckner, now with 3 scores and an assist. Well, this is the first goal by Syzygy dating back to the first half.
Yeah, it was a 7-1 run since it was 5-3 before that last goal.
Did you think the movement of the disc was better this time around on that last scoring?
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. They were getting quicker resets. They were getting the disc from sideline to sideline and not letting the zone defense set itself up. I think more than anything, after the Stanford turnovers, they hustled to reinitiate play quickly to prevent that defense from really getting comfortable.
You also mentioned the cutters had to be more active. Did you see some of that?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, downfield, they were going side to side and creating some activity. If the downfield cutters are just standing still, the downfield defense doesn't really need to work hard at all.
Let's see how Stanford answers that, although right now the more aggressive team is going to have to be Carleton. Superfly with a 3-goal lead and a disc. Offsides being called. Or is it pick, excuse me.
Coming in at 3.
It's an unforced error and a slight opening of the door for Carleton.
Yep, you can tell by the enthusiasm on the sideline that intended for Shayla Harris. Teams switch sides after a goal score, so
Buckner.
right to left now is the operation for Carleton, and Buckner with a nice grab. They're in midfield and on the move. And look for Emily Buckner, number 5, to try to be in the middle of it, but a turnover.
Through the hands of Thalen, who had the last goal. If you're Carleton, you need to play transition defense. Second unforced turnover of the point. Looked like good form on the release from Lim. She just didn't get the right air bounce that she was looking for on the low release.
Has Stanford lost any of its focus after leading by 4?
I think it's just perhaps the wet disc. And both teams starting to deal with the conditions as much as they're dealing with each other.
Starting to see some tosses that are beyond the intended cutters after we had a few unforced drops here to start the second half. Much steadier rain than we have seen in the entire tournament, especially today. Into traffic. Another opportunity for Carleton. And there's the 4-person defense you spoke to. And that one knocked out of the air by Caitlin Go. Here comes Stanford going the other way. Contact, score.
A super quick strike for Stanford Superfly. And a great job reading the disc in the end zone.
Veronica Cruz with her first score of the game. Carleton had chances, but Stanford back to a 4-score advantage.
Credit Go with the defensive play. Buckner has been so big in the air, but that time a little too nonchalant, waiting for the disc. Maybe an opportunity to call a foul call, but the body just got tangled a little bit. Stanford's depth continues to shine, Jim. I mean, we haven't mentioned Veronica Cruz yet.
Nope.
This is a spectacular read of the disc. You know, that wasn't a foul. The defender, Zoe Borden, sort of kept on pursuing, and it was like when the post player pulls the chair out from the post-up guy.
How about this? Veronica Cruz, as you see by the graphic, the 9th different player to score today. But you mentioned earlier, when you think of Stanford, you don't think of a dominant goal scorer. You've got other people that are able to do the scoring work, and we have seen it spread out nicely today. So what this all means is now Stanford is 4 scores away from a matchup with Oregon for the national championship, 1 versus 2, which most people, I think, have predicted.
Yeah. What's interesting in the men's bracket, both number 1 and number 2 have been eliminated, so the other teams will have a chance. Stanford, we've talked about the history, 7 championships. It began in 1997. Dominique Fontenette, one of the first Callahan Award winners. She's still active and playing with Seattle Riot, longtime champion with San Francisco Fury. She was a senior in 97, won the Callahan that year, named the team Superfly.
It's a great name.
Andrea A.J. Johnson won the Callahan in 1998 when Stanford won it again. Robin Davis was a sophomore rookie on the 99 team that won it all, and she's now in her 14th season helping to coach Superfly. Won the title again in 2003 behind Gwen Ambler, who was the Callahan runner-up, and Jenny Burney, and then the three-peat from 05 to 07, led by gals like Anessa Janes, Lauren Casey, Hannah Griego, who
Great names.
Hannah Griego now lives in Alaska. I met her in my Alaska journey this past September. Talked about some of the Stanford history.
Great reputation to uphold, and Stanford is doing it well in this tournament.
And with that said, they've had a little bit of a lapse, if you can call it that. Their last semis appearance was back in 2011, so at a 4-year break between semifinals appearances. Meister was a freshman on that team. Only player on the 11 team that's still on the roster now.
Short field right now for Stanford to work with an 11-7 advantage. Stephanie Lim with a look. And a score. And right now Stanford is closing the deal. Meister. Celebrate and celebrate well.
I think my job as color commentator is to try to analyze the play. Thankfully, I don't have to analyze that celebration.
No, sir.
I don't really know where to start. But the play was quick strike offense, as Stanford has done throughout the game. Which basketball coach was it that said, be quick, but don't hurry?
John Wooden.
That's right. And that's kind of Stanford's attack. Not sure how they feel about being compared to a UCLA basketball team.
No, but still, it's a fair comparison. And the dynasty that Stanford had built over the period of 15 to 20 years is very comparable to what Wooden did with his 10 national championship run for the men.
See, the pivot across the body is what opens up the throwing lane. And I tell young throwers, if you're nervous with the disc when you get it in your hands, if you step across and pivot to threaten the backhand, if you're being forced flick, you might have no interest in throwing the backhand. There might not be a cutter there.
But you got to give them the look, right?
It forces the mark to respect that throw, which opens up the flick and makes that a nice and easy throw. If you don't step over, then you might get that flick hand block. You have the pressure of the mark there.
It's all about sometimes just giving the impression that you can do other things with it.
In basketball, if you're the top of the key, you have no intention of throwing at the left wing, but if you fake the pass and then go back to the other side, it shifts the defense.
Yes, sir. Meister, as you saw by the numbers earlier, the hat trick. Now 3 goals, 12-7 lead. 3 more for Stanford. It's over.
Monisha White couldn't come up with that time, but even though Buckner gets this goal, I feel like Stanford's defense is really the story of this game. The way they've forced Carleton into taking some of those contested 50-50 deep shots, and similar to how Lou Burris commented that we'll take those 50-50 shots against Alex Odie and Bethany Kaler, I think that's how Stanford's coaching staff feels with Monisha White lingering back there.
4 goals now for Emily Buckner, but barring an incredible comeback here, it will be for naught. Still, Buckner's had a solid game. She scored the first 2 today for Carleton. Then they put the clamps on her. She found a way to score at the end of the first half, and she now has scored here in the second.
Yeah, she's one of the players of the tournament. By the way, about that Michaela Meister celebration, you're the play-by-play announcer, so it's your job to describe. Could you describe what you saw on the field there?
I'm often encouraged to lay out.
Let the pictures tell the story.
And I thought maybe that would be a good point to do that.
In broadcasting and an ultimate, usually the best thing you can do is lay out.
You think a Sports Center top 10 maybe for her? Maybe not, huh?
Maybe not top 10.
That's right. She could qualify for that as well. Carleton with a pull. This one not going very far. Superfly oh so close for a matchup with Oregon. Needing to score 3 more times. Could this be one of them? No.
That looked like a jailbreak play.
Yeah, it did.
3 Stanford white jerseys in the end zone. And that should have been a score. They reset the zone.
But now, because of the short throw, the low throw, great scoring opportunity for Stanford. Right in the red zone.
Oh, what a D.
Yes.
Steph Lim made the great cut, but Carleton's Megan Chavez. I mean, it's going to take a lot for Carleton to get back into this game, but on the verge of being down by 5 and basically having it be over. When Lim made that cut, I was certain that that was a Stanford goal in the making.
We have an injured player.
And it's Michaela Meister who took the brunt of this collision with Emily Buckner, who again seemed impervious to the contact. Hopefully just the wind knocked out of her and not anything more serious.
Well, in this non-contact sport, we have seen a couple people go down as a result of collisions.
You know, Meister, we mentioned before, tore her ACL in the last couple of years, has battled back from that. She's dealt with injury. She's back on her feet. And it looks like she wants to stay in the game.
Can't blame her. So Meister will remain in. And she has scored 3 times for the leading Stanford team. Stephanie Lim, score. And Rempel with the big grin right now in the backwards hat off the throw from Lim.
It's just so tough to defend. With a cutter like Rempel, a thrower of Lim's caliber, there's a reason she'll be on the top club team in San Francisco, Fury, this coming summer and fall. Excellent pivot, good form on the release. Knew who her target was, knew that she could give it a little float and give Rempel the license to make the leaping catch.
Like a quarterback in football, looking to the right but throwing to the left, right? They knew exactly what she was going to do from the beginning.
And she could have thrown it either way, but
sure.
The ability to pivot, I've said it on these broadcasts a number of times, I think the thing that separates elite throwers, not mentioning their throwing ability, but their quick pivoting ability. Their ability to threaten flick, fake the backhand and bounce back to the flick. Keeping balance and keeping their composure, it basically renders the mark relatively useless. And marks have become so important to try to neutralize throwers. And good throwers, I think, can be flustered by great marks. Great throwers, you just gotta limit what they can do. Try not to let them hurt you that much.
On the back of Stephanie Lim's jersey is the word slim, combining the S from her first name with the LIM of her last name, and Slim has a couple of assists on the last couple of goals. Up to Borden. 13-8 is the score. We played at 15, and Stanford is right on the verge of winning this national semifinal. Buckner somehow caught it but couldn't throw it.
I've been there. You make a nice catch, the disc is wet, and when you grip a wet disc with a flick, every once in a while that happens.
Yep, tough break. Superfly up at midfield. Now across to Harris. Harris will look for a little help. Diving catch there by Thompson. Pick was called.
Get on one. It was in the air. Right, get on one.
So Jennifer Thompson keeps the disc. We play on. Been a great second half for Stanford. Leading 8-6, they have had the upper hand in this second half the entire way.
And this is you know, somewhat just a repeat of what Stanford's done throughout the tournament. You know, gradually wearing down teams with defense, forcing them to make mistakes, forcing them to make tough plays. And early in the game, Carleton made some tough plays. And, you know, Buckner proved to be a great presence.
Give and go to Lim.
Nice poach D there from Carleton's Anna Weeks. And just, you know, it's one of those things. You're trying to get 4 scores back on that one throw, and it had no chance from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's so difficult when you have such a big deficit to avoid hurrying. And on the other end, who makes them pay but Stanford and Stephanie Lim, which puts them on the verge of the finals.
Lim and Meister celebrating together. You know, walking around the field the last few days, a few players stand out at every field, and for Stanford, it's Lim and Meister. I mean, they have a lot of pieces. 9 or 10 different players have scored in this game. Every player has a role, and I think that's what makes them so good. But Lim and Meister are responsible for making the plays in the big moments. And as we close in on the soft cap, it's going to be an inconsequential soft cap today. This is my all-universe college nationals team for 2015. If I had to pick a universe point line from all the players at nationals, I'd go with Buckner, Donaldson, Alika Johnston from Virginia, who's just been fantastic all season. Bethany Kaler and Jessie Schaffner from Oregon. We saw them earlier, and I think Lim and Meister are worthy. I mean, there's a bunch of other good players that you could mention, but these are the 7 that I've sort of honed in on. If there was a draft and I had the first 7 picks, you know who I'd take.
That's a terrific group. All right, let's look ahead to Stanford and Oregon for tomorrow, since we've got a break to do that.
Yeah. I think it's a really even matchup. I think that the Oregon girls have been in the championship game so many times recently. 2 years ago they won it. Last year they were in it, losing a close game to a better Ohio State team led by Cassie Swafford and Paige Diddy Soper. I think the consensus, the fields, which I mentioned at the opening of the broadcast, was that Stanford had been slightly better than Oregon this weekend. Oregon beat Stanford in the regular season. It was a close game though. And I know that Stanford has been eagerly awaiting that rematch. And it's going to be a great match. I mean, both teams have stars. I think Monisha White might try to guard Jessie Schaffner a little bit.
Yeah. While the action is going on, Jimmy Mickle's getting some love from the audience here.
When you win the Callahan, you get serenaded wherever you go. That's part of the perks of the award. I was singing to Jimmy just earlier.
Men's National semifinals tonight, 6 o'clock Central and 8:30, 7 Eastern and 9:30. And on the West Coast considerably earlier. Hope you can join us for it. About to wrap up game 2 of 4. All right, let's check that. 5:30 Central and 6:30 Eastern. To be followed then by the second national semifinals for the men.
Stanford on the break right here.
Great chance to end it.
Stall was called. Doesn't really matter if the call is upheld or not because it is a turnover regardless. Got to pay respect to the hardy fans that have withstood these conditions. The players, of course, too, but they get to run around.
Sure.
A lot of raincoats and umbrellas.
Haven't seen many people leave.
It feels feels like a different time of year than what we had the last 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Here in Milwaukee.
Yesterday felt like summer. Now it's a downpour here at Eline Park. We have seen this way too often for Carleton, deep in its own zone.
And once again, this is Callahan country. That would be a harsh way for Carleton's season to end.
Which means an interception by the defense in the end zone would end it. Carleton still not out of trouble. Buckner in the middle of it, though. And it's intercepted.
Monisha White, again, has such great awareness deep in the zone. Pretty good hands, too. Oh, body's tumbling. Stanford called a foul.
Well, I'm sure there's more than one player hoping just to get this over with. But in the meantime,
Coming to us. Coming to us. It was a foul. It was a foul.
we had to separate that.
Defense is going to be your check whenever you're ready. 21. Check the disc. Yep.
Superfly continues with the disc, needing just one goal. And there it is. Game over.
The national championships involve 20 teams. Many more than that go to sectionals and regionals, but they still seed them 1 through 20. And when this tournament began, Oregon was number 1, Stanford was number 2, and they will be the final 2 on Memorial Day Monday here in Milwaukee. Caitlin Go, the winning score, sending Stanford back to the championship game.
So the best of the Northwest will meet tomorrow for the championship. Almost identical scores here today, Evan, of 15-9 and 15-8.
Yeah, both losers played decently in the first half. Both top seeds flexed their championship muscles in the second.
We'll talk with the winning coach upon our return on ESPN3. This is USA Ultimate College Championships. The 2015 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer for Discraft Ultrastar. The Women's Sports Foundation, ensuring equality and leadership opportunities for girls and women through sports. And the Girls Ultimate Movement, a strategic initiative designed to increase girls' participation in the sport of ultimate. Welcome back. We won't keep the Stanford head coach very long because it is pouring right now down at the field at Eline Park. Coach, let's talk about the second half and what was the difference as you started to separate from Carleton.
Yeah, so I think the second half we came out with a lot more energy, and we changed our strategy a little bit because, as you just noted, the weather got pretty nasty out here, pretty windy, pretty rainy, and so we used a lot more man-type defenses. We really keyed in on Lucia, their main handler, number 10, and threw a box-and-one type zone offense or zone defense against them. That was really helpful for us, as well as another four-man cup when the team was trying to go upwind. We just basically tried to force them to throw as many lateral throws in a tough situation as we could, and then made great plays on the wings and in the deep when they did try to break it through.
Yeah, when they did try to go over the top, it seemed like Monisha White had something to say about that. Has that been her role all season long?
Yeah, Monisha's been doing that for us, basically since she started playing, and then our two wings really kept it in with Natasha and Michaela Meister as well.
Coach, can you look ahead to tomorrow? Lou Burris did not get his wish. You won your game. So now you're going to face off with Oregon and its quick strike offense. Initially, what do you look forward to in terms of that game?
Yeah, so I think, we're not sure if the conditions are going to be like this, but clearly we've proven that we can play in weather like this and also in the other weather that's been, kind to us as well. So I'm looking forward to the game. I love playing against Oregon. We've played them a couple times this season, so we know them very well, and I would look forward to a really competitive, close game.
Congratulations, and go get dry if you would, please.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Coach.
Jamie. Time now for the Discraft Ultra Star play of the game. It was the way the disc was moved here, not to mention the layout out the end for the score.
Yeah, it's going to end with a nice layout, but you see the patience from Stanford, the strong fundamental throws into the hands of Gegg, looking downfield, backhand fake to the end zone for Meister, and one of her many excitable celebrations. The Stanford Superfly squad heading back to the finals here at Nationals, and now we get to ask her about those celebrations.
All right, Michaela, let's speak to your 3-goal effort today, and what did you think allowed you to have such an outstanding performance?
I mean, playing in this game is a dream come true for me. Last time we were in semis was my freshman year. I didn't really know like what a big deal that was then, you know, sophomore through whatever, junior year didn't do as well. Senior year I tore my ACL. I can play last year, and so like I just decided going into this game I was gonna love every point. I knew this could be my last game with Superfly. And just being grateful for every point, you know, for every turnover. You know, I'm grateful for everything in that game, and that just allowed me to play, I think, with like a lot of excitement. I felt loose. I wasn't too tight, and you know, you gotta celebrate when you score. You know, it doesn't happen every day.
So all right, we've got to ask you about the celebration. Excuse me, Evan. Evan was trying to critique it, trying to analyze it. He said there were no words for what you do out there.
Yeah, I mean, so break points are a huge deal for me. I mean, in life, I'm a D-line player, and so when you get that break, you know, you have to do your break dance. That's from the Stanford men's team, originally my freshman year. But I mean, you score on defense, like you just stopped them and you gave them the frisbee. I mean, like you gotta freak out, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to love everything, every moment in that game. You know,
you got to celebrate it. It's clear you love playing. You got shaken up there a little bit. What happened there, and what has it meant to you to play this year after the injury a couple years ago?
You're gonna make me start crying. Yeah, I mean, I just got the wind knocked out of me, and I do kind of freak out if I get hit, just because, you know, I'm kind of sensitive to my body these days. Playing this year has been awesome. The captains, Manisha, Slim, and Annie, have just built an amazing team. And you know, it's bottom to top. It's freshmen all the way through grad students, you know, PhDs. Like, you know, we're all in it together. It's, you know, it's really 23 strong. And it's just been amazing to have this as my 5th year. Yeah.
Quickly, you've seen Fugue before on a couple of occasions. What do you anticipate tomorrow?
I mean, for me, it's like it's a new team every time. You know, we played them a couple other times this year. It's Oregon, so you can get like fired up about that. I think for me personally, I like to treat every team that we see. You know, every team's a new team. You know, we saw them at whatever invite and Pres Day, but they're different since then. We're different since then. So I basically trust the coaches to think hard about that. I try to stay in the moment and just, you know, celebrate with my teammates, get my dance on. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
One last thing. Have you thought about raising the trophy tomorrow and what that would be like?
No, I take it one heart, one mind, 1 point at a time. Yeah. We'll see, you know, love every point, see what happens.
Well, maybe you'll get to 14 tomorrow and start thinking about it. Congratulations on a great job today, Michaela.
Thank you so much.
All right, Michaela Meister, our special guest, and that's it. We have our 2 finalists tomorrow for the women's championship at 1 o'clock. Oregon against Stanford, both with big second halves today, 15-9 and 15-8. And I suppose we have the championship that everybody had anticipated, Evan.
Hopefully it's a great game. Hopefully the conditions don't decide it. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. And the star power on both teams is immense. Role players are going to be huge. Can the young role players on each team step up on the biggest stage? But you know, these are 2 programs that are established. Oregon going for its 3rd national title. Stanford going for its 8th national title. But it's first since 2007. So a lot on the line tomorrow here in Milwaukee.
Evan and I are back in an hour 10 to bring you the men's national semifinals. Game 1 tonight, followed by Game 2. For Evan, I'm Jim. So long from Eline Soccer Park in Milwaukee. Final score against Stanford 15, Carleton 8. To watch this entire game on replay, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been a presentation of ESPN.